Again, thank you guys so much for showing up. This has been a long time cooking for me. So by now, my name is Jeff. I have had quite the life. I was always inquisitive. I always thought there was more going on with life ever since I was very young. And because of that, I was always kind of a little bit of a rebel, kind of anti-authority, anti-establishment. I was a punk when I was a kid, seriously. I dyed my hair black, I smoked cigarettes, pro bound my arms. I was like a real gutter punk. Like I vandalized, I was a little asshole, seriously. But I had this eagerness to know more. I knew there was more going on, and I felt like what the world was offering me wasn't all true. I kind of went down this path like, I don't think anyone really has this figured out. Not the way that they're telling me. And I was raised in Christian schools. I went to a Lutheran school, Catholic school. My parents wanted me to go to private school because they thought I'd get a better education. And because of that, I went to church regularly. And I would get in fights with the class in mass because I would have all these questions about the nature of existence and God and Jesus, and everyone was just very against me asking those questions, and it caused me to be a punk. But later on in my life, when I was about 20 years old, all my questions got answered in a single spectacular moment. A flash of light completely flooded the room, and in that moment, that day, in the following days and weeks after that, I felt like light. I felt like lighter than air, and I could see the light inside everybody. And that light was love. It was just pure unconditional love. And I've been searching for the words and the way to express it for 20 years since then. How do I explain this to people to where I can make it make sense what I saw that day, and that thing that's never gone away, that I really do see inside everybody, that I feel at the end of the day for everybody, at the end of life, where everyone came from and where they're going is back to this light, back to this love. And whether they realize it or not, in all their endeavors, they are seeking this love, this harmony, this grace, this balance, this truth. In everything they do, even if they don't even realize it, even if they don't know how to put words to it, even if they look like they're on a really rocky or painful path, they're all looking for that. How do I get back there? Where did I come from? And that is the burning question of mankind. And so after that experience, I was like, well, what does this mean for me? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to be a healer? Am I supposed to be a shaman? I knew it had to be something in that direction, so I went and learned Reiki. I learned Reiki actually here about 14 years ago with the original owners. I went and learned theta healing, and that was more or less a class on how to develop ESP, psychic abilities, doing a lot of belief work, digging deep, figuring out what limits you, what keeps you from opening your third eye to more and more possibilities. Well, a lot of that had to do with there's stuff you don't want to look at. And when there's stuff you don't want to look at, you don't want to shine a light on that, it will blind you to other things. And I went through that. I went through a lot of trial and tribulation, pain and heartbreak. But I kept pushing on and kept holding that light that I saw as the ultimate truth. And that led to many beautiful things, awesome jobs, awesome friends, my wonderful, wonderful wife, who has validated and confirmed everything in me ever since then. My best friend, my co-pilot, I mean, she's just absolutely wonderful. I thank you too for that. But she's been wonderful and supportive. And then just, we talk about synchronicity and seeing, numbers on the clock or seeing little signs. That was like every single step of the way for me. Not only was it synchronicity, but it was serendipity. It was just like the universe is like, you got it, buddy. You're on the right path. You're on the right path. And things would fall into my lap on awesome career opportunities. Once I started 2 years ago, so fast forward, I learned all these different things. I spent hours and hours meditating. and in that meditation, I noticed something wild would happen. When I would just get silent, when I would just focus on my breath, I would start to kind of do this and sway side to side, and it felt like my eyes were like going back up into my head and seeking like the middle eye, and then like pointing up. And what I realized is that my body was going through this natural process of setting itself up for a Kundalini awakening. And I could feel and see the color of the energy rise in me. And it was just happening normally, even before I did any research on it. It was just happening on its own. And I experienced myself as different people in different settings. There was one particular time where I felt like I was this old Indian man with this big long beard, and I could feel his skin right up against his skeleton. And he just started laughing, and I started laughing, and I was like flipping it back and forth between my buddy's living room and this monastery somewhere in India. And it was like, I was like snapping in and out of these realities. And we were just laughing as we both recognized that we were this one infinite consciousness. And then the next day, this guy that I was working at a hotel. It used to be the Red Lion at that time. Now it's, I don't even know what it is, the big cylindrical hotel over next to the river there. It's like the Roadhouse Inn or something. I can't remember what they call it.
Quality Suites now, I think.
Quality
Something Suites.
Gotcha. But at the time it was owned by an Indian family, the Patels, and the general manager, I was cooking breakfast. I cooked for a lot of years. And the general manager would come over and have his waffle and peanut butter and eggs and syrup and chat with me. And he was asking me my birthday, and I told him it was May 4th, 1985. And he was like, "That's a very lucky birthday." And he said, that's my master, my guru's birthday. And he pulled open his wallet and showed me this guy. And it was that guy that I saw in the vision. And I told him right then and there, like, I just saw that guy in a vision yesterday while I was meditating. And he's like, "Was he carrying anything?" And I just immediately drew it down. And it was a little gold chain incense burner that he would sway around as he walked through it. And I drew it. And it made this guy just like drop his jaw. And he couldn't believe that. And so it was a validation for him and a mega validation for me. But that was just one instance of where I was experiencing channeling and I didn't know what it was yet or how to put words to it. It was just a wild experience that was confirmed by the universe around me. Anyway, I don't want to keep telling stories, but this all led up to 2 years ago. I quit my regular job, get up and grind job of sales. I was in sales previously. I cooked and served and managed a bartend before, or managed a restaurant before that. But sales really like lit a fire under me to recognize that I am worth more than this. I am worth as much as the work that I put into what I do. And frankly, I care not to sell cars or home renovation to people and sit there for 2 hours trying to convince you that you need to get a new roof. Like, it didn't light up my soul. I could do it, and I could communicate, and I could understand somebody's personality and kind of the ways to get through that. But it was, one night I came home after trying to get an interview for another sales job because I was so sick of the one I was in, when my wife asked me, she's like, "You want to sell people themselves. You don't want to sell any of this crap." And that was like a bing, light bulb went off on me. And then I started just studying and writing and trying to understand what is value, what would I offer to somebody if I were to sell them themselves? What does that mean? What does value mean to people? And then it dawned on me. So this kind of is building up to creating this company, creating a YouTube channel, trying to figure out how do I bottle this up and package this up and offer it to people in a way that benefits them and shows results. And so that led to creating Spiritual Escape Artist, which was all divinely inspired through the grace and help of my father, who also believes in me and what this can do. I would do channeling sessions for him. and he had major back surgery 8 years ago. He had the bottom 5 vertebrae fused with a metal bar, and he was scared to death that he was going to be paralyzed for the rest of his life. And his foot was going numb for the last 8 years, and that was something else that was freaking him out because his spinal column was growing bone spurs, and they were starting to build up over the hardware, and it was rubbing into the nerve cluster that was making his left leg go numb, his left foot. And so he had a follow-up surgery that was coming up earlier this year in January. And so that was what the topic was in all our channeling sessions, was how do I approach this? What kind of state do I take to figure this out? And he followed it. He followed it to a T. And that information is going to arise here today because it's always ultimately the same thing. That you are in charge of your domain, your space. Regardless of what anyone tells you, you get to decide how to respond to the circumstances that arise, and the kind of energy that you put off is being felt and received by the universe around you. And you can see it when a really happy person walks into a room, or when someone's really down, and that energy spreads and it impacts everybody. But we saw firsthand that there was a benefit going on here as he went into that second surgery, and it went off without a hitch. It was absolutely amazing. The first surgery took almost 2 full months for him to actually recover from, to where he could walk normally without aid or put on his clothes. And my brother, bless him, helped him through that whole thing. I was busy working at the time. But this second time, he healed in a matter of a week and a half. In a week, he was already walking around the block like he was almost fully healed. It was incredible. Pain had subsided very quickly. But he went into it with a completely different state of mind. And he was much more open to the potential of spirituality and God and what that means to him. He opened up his belief valves as to what that could be. And he was just more accepting of it, and he could recognize that. He used to be very worked up about politics and things that he couldn't control. Nowadays, he doesn't even worry about it. He realizes I can only control my environment and the time that I have, and I'm going to make the best of it, and he's the happiest I've ever seen him. So I've witnessed firsthand the spiritual evolution of my father, also, again, further validating my path and what I'm doing. Anyway, this isn't all about the story, but leading up to this point, and why I'm doing this channeling right here, right now, is because it has benefits. I know that this could be useful for people, and what it really aims to do is show you the light within you that everybody really has access to, so. In creating the business, I start now with, and believe me, none of this is rehearsed. This is all just coming off the top of my head, okay? Spirituality is a personal journey. So don't believe anything I say or anyone else at face value. Trust your instincts, trust your intuition, trust your judgment. That's what I aim to show you, is that that's a real thing, and that the more energy and time you put into that it will come through more and more clearly for anyone. And right here, right now is what matters most. This is, and the same goes as soon as you guys leave, the moment that you occupy, if you could focus your attention there and your well-being being that priority that you live up to, then that spreads to others. That when you think about the future, the past, it now occupies your space that you're in, and it'll make you anxious, it'll make you depressed, it'll make you worry about things that you can't control, and because of that, you'll start to put out that kind of energy, and unbeknownst to you, you'll start precipitating a confirmation for that. You're like, oh, okay, I do have something to worry about, I do have something to be afraid of that's coming, and it's hard to see in the moment when things are happening or the shit hits the fan that you actually chose the steps that brought you to that. And it's, in our society, we're quick to blame somebody else for our problems, and we don't even look at the fact that we chose where to go that morning when we got out of bed, and then the preceding mornings after that. So part of us as a society lives unconsciously, just on habit, just on loops, and we don't think about the information we consume or the food we consume because we're not altogether living fully consciously. So that's kind of like a quick riff. Before I get started, does anyone have any questions or anything at all? You know, good? Good for showing up. So as I said before, I may shake a little bit. My eyes might roll in the back of my head. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. That's kind of the beauty of this. It's always very spontaneous. This would be my first time doing it for a small group like this. So I'm kind of excited, I'm kind of nervous. But as I've set up the company, it's really, the key is in the question. And your question is leading to something that you're seeking. Even if that question isn't a direct connection, it might lead to the next question and the next question, which could really open something up for you. So I'm just going to get into it and then prompt you until I'm ready. And if anybody has a question, please speak up. If not, I might just keep talking. I don't know. But if you have questions about channeling, spirituality, whatever it is, just feel free to hit me. I'm going to go ahead and get connected here. And again, if you're curious about the process that I'm going through or whatever's going on, you can ask anything, and I'm happy to tell you. I'm an open book. Thank you, 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 bottom of my heart. For all of your paths and every direction you've ever taken, and it's led you here to be here in our shared presence, I thank you. All right, let's begin. Or I'll start. So one thing I'll keep pointing out is that the only thing that truly matters, meaning materializes, is this moment right here. The moment that the sound, as it exits through my vocal cords in this physical instrument and bounces across the drums of your ear, is creating a vibration that is being felt and known simultaneously within this singular instant. This is where energy comes into matter. This does not mean that which you care about, anyone that isn't here right now, your future and your past, don't mean anything. It's just immaterial right now. Therefore, it lives in your mind in a non-physical space. You could say then that in and of itself is metaphysical. It's beyond the physical. But right here, right now, as we live this life as humans, this is physical. And the area, point of impact, where we have the most influence, is directly where our attention is, which is always going to be your right now. You've heard it before. Where attention goes, energy flows. Because your attention is the literal conduit or tap faucet where the creative force of the universe is going. And it just happens to be going through you as you, through the filtration of who you think you are, your personality, your persona, your identity, your ego. These are all valid and important things, and they have brought you to this point right here, right now. They have paved the steps of the path that you've taken. So in realizing that, you have a reset switch available to you at all times, right in the present moment. And if you recognize that there's this little point, if I was to show you in an image the distinction between right now and the present would be the space in which the experience is being occupied. The sounds of muttering upstairs, the breathing of everyone in the room, the low vibration of my legs as I talk, the lighting, all of that's happening in the present moment. But right before what I'm about to say right now, what I'm about to say right now, I can't even put my finger on it because it's right before that, is right now. And that's a point. So there's a point and then it flows out into a present moment. That point is a point of power. And that point is where all meditators ultimately seek to get to, is that place of crystal clear clarity before thought, before experience. And it's very, very quiet. It's very, very silent. And that silence exists whether you're thinking about it or not. Whether or not you're standing in traffic or at an orchestra. The silence is necessary in order for you to hear sound. The contrast between these two dualities is necessary for us to have an experience. Duality is necessary for us to experience physical life. If we were all the light from which we came, we wouldn't need to go through this, and we would just be one in this blissful ocean of energy. But there is an aspect of us that is there right now, right here, right now. And that which pulls us away from that is the mind setting up scenarios, thoughts and ideas about things to do in different ways to experience a physical life, a human life. But the thing of it is, coming into a Western culture, especially, really any culture across the globe, is that we all suffer from a bit of amnesia, where we forget our origin coming into this planet. We forget why we decided to be that person, to choose the parents that we had, and what our path was. And when we enter into the hustle and bustle of physical reality, we have needs. We have to survive. We have to make a living. We have to make a name for ourselves in order to be known and recognized as our small little self in that physical package. And we become focused on the external world, and all of our significance that we place on things is on things that exist externally from us. The kind of house that we live in, the car that we have, our wife and our kids, and the legacy that we leave for the next generation. These things become more important, and it trickles into the culture that we live in. Regardless of your religious background, it doesn't matter, because if you speak the English language and you live in this country, It's sewn into your belief system just by simply speaking. We live in a time where people with money and fame are very important, and everyone else glorifies them. But when we get caught up in the play as it's being played out by all of these different actors, we tend to not look within and question what we really believe or where we're really coming from. And because of that, we'll make reservations in the way that we speak because we want to uphold something that gives us comfort, even if deep down we're just not quite sure about it, or something doesn't quite feel right about it. We are willing to save that for later, save that for another time, save that for retirement to get after our spirituality. And so you see that in our culture, where spirituality is set to the wayside and it's kept out of school, and the opportunities that we may place before us in merging our understanding of the nature of reality, science, religion, and spirituality is not widely accepted as even an option. And we are now faced with a time, as I know everyone in this room recognizes, that that's all changing. There is a new era of human, a new era of spirituality on the rise, and it happens with each of us, with each of you, in your own right, in your own self-expression of who you are and how you experience. That is how you teach the world who you are and where you come from. We are all, in that sense, in charge of our own religion. And it may mesh with a collective religion, and that's beautiful, and it should. But in order for that to happen, you have to open it up for yourself. The spiritual path is a personal one, as I stated at the very beginning of this. And when you follow the rules set by somebody else, along with a group, along with a community, then you are feeding an ego that believes that that must be the way, and that is exclusively the way to get to freedom, to get to liberation, self-empowerment, and heaven. And that is an egoic means of approaching spirituality. And it makes it easy and susceptible for people to forget that spirituality is much closer to home, much closer to the heart than what you could read in any book or hear in any sermon. That even as I talk to you here now, and I hope that these words resonate with you, and I know they do because you showed up. This experience that we're all having together isn't just mine, it's everyone in the room. We're all co-creating this experience as we choose where to place ourselves, where to place our now. That is the singular gift of pure light that has been given to each of us by that one that we call God. That we are all a fragment of that, a piece of that. And we offer that to our loved ones, to the things that we enjoy to do, to our art, to our music, to our pets, to our craft, to our job. As we give that our attention, we are giving it the most precious resource in the universe. Everyone wants a little piece of your attention. That's why they make so much money on advertising and social media. And all of those things are vying for your attention, all of them, because there are people that recognize the true power of what that means. And it's not in their vested interest to let you remember that. That you really do have authority over your life and the way things transpire. And that if you learn to get into right now and relax your need to control how everything's happening, relax your need to define and identify and understand the world, that it will show itself to you as you relax, settle down your mind, get into things such as meditation or immersion into the moment that you occupy. Could be listening to beautiful music, could be mowing your lawn, could be petting your cat. Whatever it is that you're doing, if you can set your reality creation of manufacturing a virtual space where you're imagining what the future holds, what the past holds, and focus your attention into the moment that you occupy, that what the future holds and what the past means will present itself in due time. And you will then experience synchronicity. And you will get that little shiver down your spine and the chills on your arms because you are on that path. And that's a little sign that everyone experiences when they slip into the moment, when they slip into this presence that I speak of. And then you bring a greater quality of yourself to the people in the space that you occupy and to the universe at large, because you are paying better attention. As we say the words pay attention, as though your attention is that currency. And that is the ultimate currency. Really, that's even more focal to what we call money and wealth in this culture, is what we're really exchanging with our currency is our time. When we buy the house, we're not just paying for a domicile to live in, we're paying for the construction workers and the carpenters and the designers who put that house there. We're paying for the time that everybody learned how to do that. And so there's a great deal of convenience that we transact there. And it's all measures of time. So the pillar by which I stand and by which I channel from is this, that right now is what matters. That this moment right here is your time. And that time is your ultimate currency. And how you spend that time shapes you and the world that you live in, your environment, and then beyond. And you are responsible for that. And that's probably the most difficult part for somebody to hear, when they hear something like, your time is valuable. That might make some people cringe or worry or consider those regrets of time not so well spent. But that's where I'm here to remind you, right now is the refresh point. That time is now gone. You've already spent that time. That's okay, because the next second is here, the next second is here, the next second is here. And if you recognize that, that means everything behind that, everything is now a product of the mind, a projection. And you can learn from that, and you can decide what steps to take with that in an intelligent, rational way. Or you can get lost in it, and you can suffer your regrets and your resentments and worrying about, was I not good enough? Was I not valuable enough to perform what I needed to do? And unwittingly putting up blocks and walls between you and that which you desire, your heart's desire. And then you're left with an unsatiated heart. And that's what we're really here to do, is to satiate this, because your heart is who you truly are. That's what's true to all of us. And we can call that our inner child. We can call that our soul. We can call that our spirit, our core. It's more than just the physical pumping heart. That is a valid and incredibly significant aspect of you as a being. And the mind is where so many people end up occupying and living. But the mind can only think. It can only try to understand what the heart knows. And the heart knows what it wants. But the mind will put up protection there, because the heart is precious. The heart is our most valuable, precious thing that we can offer to someone. And again, through our attention, we transmit that soul energy. So the mind
get in the way of that, and by meaning to protect us, to keep us safe, to keep us secure. It protects us. It protects our heart. But it also sets up those walls against us to where we can't get that clear recognition of what our heart desires, because our mind is telling us something else. Well, I really want that, but I can't have that because I am not this person. I am not this gender. I am not this whatever. I don't have skills in this. And so you're setting up these blocks to getting towards what you really want, and it's creating this sinking feeling in the heart that it doesn't get to have what it wants, and this precipitates suffering. And that comes from a number of things, one of those things being a patriarchal society where the mind is king. The man is king. The man knows best. And that feminine aspect is put down, is put to the side or thrown in the kitchen, so to speak. But she's just as important because she's the creator. The mom is the creator. The father is the one that foresees, that provides the space, if that makes sense to you. The genesis came from the creation. The first organ that gestates in the human body is the heart. And then all the rest of the limbs in the body and the organs all form around that. That's the true center of your being. And if you want to know how to get out of your thinking mind for a while, then reposition your energy to the center of your chest. And it's as simple as breathing. In and out. A simple rhythm that we all live with. In and out, is a naturally centering, naturally balancing mechanism that exists in all of us. And you can sit there and look at your smartwatch as your heart rate goes down, as you breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. We all have this button that we can press at any given time, and it'll bring our attention and awareness and everything back to center point, right here, right now, in that feeling space. So if you're trying to understand how to discern the difference between your heart and your soul and your intuition and your thinking mind, they're distinct. Your mind thinks, it organizes, it references, it identifies, it puts everything in its place. The heart simply feels. The heart simply observes and senses. It is silent in that. It's just a feeling. And there's a distinction in our consciousness of these two things. And once you recognize that duality, then you foster cohesion, and the mind and the heart operate together in tandem, in balance, a healthy couple, as they're supposed to be. And then the mind operates for you, for your betterment, for your health, for your protection, for your opportunity, rather than against you, because its balance has been off kilter, and you've been giving more energy to your fears, and that what if this, why I shouldn't do that because that, and you're less willing to be confident and bold and take that risk because you're giving more energy to what you're afraid of than what you actually have power over, which again is right here, right now. How you're sitting, how you're breathing, how you're eating, how you're talking. So does anyone now have any questions? What thoughts does this inspire in you? Where would you like me to take this?
Let's talk about the importance of synchronicity.
Synchronicity is the beautiful recognition of being lined up with the universe at large. And when you see it, when you recognize it, it puts a smile on your face. And it could be something specific for each person. For you, it could be a bear. For you, it could be a dragonfly. For you, it could be a great big tree. Whatever it is, that is those little signs that your higher self, that soul being that can see the far ends, the far reaches of this life, places in your path to help nudge you along the way of which is your heart's desire, going in the direction of your dreams. And you get to play with that. You get to have fun with that. It doesn't have to be limited to seeing 11:11 on a clock. That can be one thing. But you can activate it within yourself in giving that more time and attention, that you can ask of the universe whenever you want, and it's listening. It's right there responding to your every command at all possible times, with no judgment, with no concern over right or wrong or left or right. It doesn't need to worry about any of that, because it's just unconditional love. It allows everything to happen. So if you ask, please let me know. Please let me know. Can I see something to help me know that I'm on the right path? You're going to see it, and you're going to know what it is, and you're going to tell stories about it. And every single time you do that, it's going to bolster that heart and mind connection, that connection with your physical identity and your spirit. And then it'll just happen so often that you don't have to question it anymore. That you know where you're at is the right place at the right time. And then you can move on to the next challenge of, how do I put myself out there? How do I express myself? How do I contribute? How do I share and serve others and spread this love and joy that I carry with me? And then you'll see it in other people, as I have with mine, the people in my life. I firsthand am recognizing a spiritual evolution in my family, in my friends, in the people in this room. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have an audience. So, anything else? Does that answer your question on synchronicity?
It does, yes, thank you.
I'd like to discuss lucid dreaming. I had a brother pass away, and he came to me in a lucid dream, and I was able to hug him and hold him and be there with him. Maybe expand a little bit on lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming, beautiful. When you are in the dreaming realm, you're actually closer to spiritual reality than we are in this, you could call it, collective dream. When you're in a dream, you're not thinking about this physical life most of the time. But there is a moment when you, call it, hit a certain frequency where you are both attuned to who you are in this physical experience and who you are in a dream. And you open up to a greater expanse where our souls mesh together with less of a rigid rule system. And this is necessary for us in physical life to have that dream time. It's very important towards a consciousness's health that we refer back to that spiritual side of ourselves and sort of let it go for a while. Take off the suit of our physical body for a while and let ourselves stretch. And most of the time, if you're not lucid or don't remember, it's because you're actually living out a completely different experience with a completely different rule set than we understand in physical reality. And there's just no reason for you to remember it at this time because it's just not relevant to your life. But every once in a while, there is a moment where you seek a higher recognition. And through your desire, through your intention, you may tap into a greater aspect of experience within a dream. And we call it lucid because you, as I had mentioned before in terms of this moment, that still stands when you're in your dreams. All that's happening and all that is important or relevant to you is what's happening in the moment. And there comes a time when all of your chakras, so to speak, align and your mind is in complete cohesion with your spirit, and you can experience this feeling of lucidity, of freedom, of knowing, of confirmation, and awaken to being within the dream, but also higher truth, a higher understanding that transcends all of your worries and all your concerns of your mind and your physical life. And you may use this time to explore your spirituality, commune with past ones, ancient ones, future ones, all of these great beings and entities that exists intermeshed in betwixt this great multi-space of time and space beyond this physical moment-by-moment linear time. You are accessing and tapping into eternal time, if I will. So what does that make you think of? How does that shake you? Does that make sense?
It does.
You see, you're just tapping into that greater reservoir of who you really are. And who you really are is beyond your name, beyond your job, beyond this specific path. But you can access that and bring it into this specific path and experience a greater vitality and richness in this life and extend that to those that you love and care about. By recognizing these truths that transcend all of our collective belief systems and language, there is more to you than that. There's more to all of us than that. And it doesn't matter if you're sick of that guy or you love that lady or whoever it is and you see them in power and you don't want them in power. They're all part of this great big play. They're all part of this great big play of being a human, spirit being a human, and living out this great collective life. And while you may not be able to influence what everyone else is doing and change the outcome of global shifting events, everybody's co-creating those events. But what you have influence over is the space that you occupy, your mental environment. And your mental environment is another way of saying spirit. And when you talk to an energy healer or somebody that can perceive all the colors and vibrations of energy, when they're looking at your spirit, what they're looking at is the environment in which you occupy in your mental space. That's the vibration you're putting off. That's the little bubble that you carry, your little sphere of influence. And when you recognize that thing as a real thing, a real important thing, and you prioritize that and make sure that that's taken care of, then it hums a little better. It brightens a little more. Every time that you take a moment to take care of yourself and give yourself that due time, whether it be hitting the gym or taking time to read a book or enjoying a movie with a loved one, when you are spending quality time with your time, you are improving your spirit. But when you are actively bogging that spirit down because you think you have to pay the bills or do this just this way and I must rigidly stick to this path, you're bogging your energy down and cutting off opportunities for other ways to approach the challenge that you're faced with. Does this make sense?
What is the difference between lucid dreaming and astral travel?
These things actually really do just boil down to semantics. From the perspective of spirit, it's really about the same thing. Some will experience astral travel or out-of-body experience because what they're doing is trying to reach or gain access to that spiritual side, but it exists in such juxtaposition that they feel that they must exit from their body and create a tether so that they don't leave their body. In truth, they don't necessarily have to do that if they can live up in their physical life to the truth of their spirituality And then they will develop a greater integration, mesh together, and that astral realm can simply come right here. Really, once you're in that space, beyond the physical confines of your mind and this physical space, you're free to do as you please. You can go anywhere you want. You can travel to any distant galaxy. You can go to that beautiful pearly sand beach under a bright, full moonlit sky where you can see the entire Milky Way galaxy lit up above you. And you can foster this space, because this space, all spaces that you could possibly imagine or can conceive exist. They already exist. And what you're doing when you decide to go there or visualize this space is you are tapping in to a dimension that exists somewhere in the universe. Anything can exist if there's consciousness there to perceive it. But it doesn't exist if there's no consciousness to perceive it. They are married. You can't have a life without the consciousness to experience it. The consciousness comes first, before the experience. The experience is fleeting. So, when you go within and you center and you find your breath and you find the essence within, you are tapping into the eternal aspect of yourself. And that is where you find peace and harmony. So when we talk about astral travel, it all has to do with your intention going into the activity of becoming your light body or your spiritual self. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We all do it all the time. We're just not consciously aware of it. Just like we all channel all the time, we just don't know what channel we're on. In my case, I'm on the channel of love. I'm on the channel of love and the articulation of this information for you. Because that's what I've trained myself to do for my whole life. So what else are you curious about?
How can you, where at times we remember our dreams every single night, for the past year or so I have a lot of trouble remembering my dreams like I used to. Is there a way to turn that back on to every single morning waking up and vividly remembering what you dreamt about the night before?
Never underestimate the power of intention. And you can maximize, amplify the power of that influence by writing it down, by reading it, by affirming it within yourself. That tonight I will remember my dreams, that I will become lucid in my dreams. And you are telling yourself, you are telling your subconscious, your spiritual self, that you want to do this, and it will do that. And the reason why you can't necessarily remember what you're dreaming has a lot to do with pain and fear, things that you haven't wanted to look at. And because of that, you've shut down a bit of your awareness. And this is what we do to protect ourselves. We do this since we are born into this life and we face traumas. We have to find coping mechanisms in order to deal with pain and suffering. And a lot of that means putting the blinders up and hiding from these things that have happened. Now, all in due time, we heal. And when we heal, we're able to look at these things again when we are ready. When we are ready, we will know. When we can look at these things again and reframe them in a new way and understand why they had to happen and what we needed to learn. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So simply tell yourself what you want to do with intent. And believe in yourself and trust in yourself. And you will succeed. You will every single time, I guarantee it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
How do we remove the wall around our heart so that we can give unconditional love through our gifts. We have so many gifts to share that are blocked by fear. So much unconditional love to share. How do we remove those blocks that fear has placed there?
Here's the amazing thing about our mind and our ego. And these walls that you refer to were originally erected as a means of protecting ourselves, protecting our heart. Because it's been hurting, it's been heartbroken, as we say. And when that happens, typically our way of coping with this is to set up a wall, put some guard dogs on it. And an amazing little feature of these walls is that they can hide themselves from us. And it's like looking into a hall of mirrors. You can't necessarily see where the lead mirror is or where that's coming from, because your attention is deftly shifted away from that wall. So this is what we would say to you is recognize again the distinction between your mind and your heart. Your mind might not be able to find what is blocking that or how to remove that wall because your mind set it up in the first place. And it so expertly deceived itself and made itself forget that it did it in the first place. So simply go into the heart. Bring the energy back into the heart and feel it from the inside. And as you feel that, you'll feel the quivering effect of facing up to that wall, and the prods and little pokers and spikes that you put around it in the attempts to make it insurmountable. You will feel that, and it might make you nervous, might bother you a little bit. But if you can feel it, eventually, as you place your attention there, you will discover what that was. And you'll recognize that that wasn't actually real, that was a self-made means of protecting yourself, and that you have now gotten to the point where you no longer need that. And you'll see, too, how you automatically will try to avoid it as you get closer and closer. But if you persevere and you trust in your heart, and you trust in that light and that love, you will face up to it, and you will be able to melt that and move past that. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be hard. Your mind might tell you that it's going to be hard, but that's where you don't give any energy to that. Just feel and trust. Feel and trust, and then ask those questions that direct your intention to: how can I serve? How can I be of service? How can I help others? How can I spread this love? Ask yourself that question every single day. Anytime it comes to mind, anytime you have a moment of peace or you're away from everybody, ask that question, and you will insert a new script, a new program into your mind, and your mind will start seeking ways to do that. Your spirit will show you which ways to go. And sometimes it might make you nervous to do it, but if you find that confidence to take that step, tell someone what they need to hear, or give someone something, you'll smile like you've never smiled before. You'll cry, you'll laugh with joy because you're doing it. And then you'll have that self-recognition of, I can do this. I do know how to do this. All you must simply do is ask, how can I do this? How can I show that love that I so want to show and share? Because I know how important this is and how much the world needs this. And if you're having difficulty knowing what to do, don't think about it so much. Feel it out. Trust that your intuition knows the way. How's that?
Thank you. That's good.
Ooh, how is this? How's everybody doing here?
Good.
About almost up to an hour here. This is all kind of experimental for me. I didn't really know how it was going to transpire. Again, thank you for showing up and doing this with me.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any?
Sure. I shared earlier that I'm new to this whole energy experience and meditation, but I have had some successful meditations where I've gone to a higher plane and gone, it's higher frequency, but it seems very fleeting. Like the sand slips through my fingers, and like within an hour, I've already forgotten this. So is this just with practice that
Absolutely.
I will be able to stay in that higher state, in that higher plane?
Dedicated time and practice. And as you do this, you are integrating your mind and body with this higher energy, as you put it, making it more accommodating. Because for so long we've been habitualized into the human life, into the grind, into the language and the dramas of human life, that it grabs our attention and grabs it real quick. And that's of a lower vibration, a lower energy. And because we put so much time and energy there, it has its own gravity, so to speak. So it pulls your attention back to it. The more time you spend detaching from these traumas, from these concerns, from the trials and the tribulations of physical life, and go within more and feel that essence more, it's like taking a coin and throwing it in a bank, and each time you do that, you're investing in that spiritual side, and everything about you in this physical body follows suit with that. And it's actually quite literally upgrading your cells, upgrading your DNA as you're doing this. Your body is becoming rewired and changing your genetics for future generations who will be far more accustomed to their spiritual side.
Thank you.
One thing you'll tend to find on this journey as you go within is that everything that I'm telling you is you already kind of know deep down. I'm not telling any secrets here. This is available to anybody at any time, and it's all about you making that time to allow that information to emerge. And you'll find, as that truth emerges and grows within, you'll develop a radar for truth in other things, in other religions, and you'll be able to look back at your past, being in the Mormon religion, for instance, and you will see the validity and truth behind it, and you will see the cultural mishaps that has led to in becoming very egoic. And you will see, oh, these people really do have it figured out. But a lot of these people don't really have a grip on it, and they're just doing it for appearances. But there is truth to all of it, anything you can think of. There's got to be. And it's relevant to those that are experiencing it. Everybody is valid. Everybody is valid. Doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean that's the way that you must take. Your way is correct for you. The way that is most relevant for you is the best way for you to take. So those little tricks and techniques that you learn along the way to, as we call it, meditate. It means you don't have to quit your job, go celibate, and live in a monastery somewhere in order to achieve spiritual liberation. You must simply learn to trust yourself and find your own way. And your way will be completely unique to you. It could be walking up to a tree and feeling the leaves and telling it how much you love it and how grateful you are to it. And let me tell you, the tree appreciates it because the tree's watching you all the time. Everything that you're experiencing is of consciousness. Consciousness laid the groundwork for everything that you're experiencing, but it can't be experienced without consciousness. It's because of Western culture and science that there's a belief that the world that we're experiencing is dead, soulless, not of consciousness. And when you go to try and understand the world from that framework, you're missing something very important. the thing that's within you, the thing that you come from, the essence of your being. And now we're seeing in science that we are making strides towards understanding what consciousness really is. This was the birth of quantum physics. This was understanding that the nature of the experiments that we take in physical reality changes based on the person having the experience and our intention. And we can see, as it's been proven, that our intention, that our energy is affecting the world around us, affecting water and nature and the air that we breathe. We, each and every one of us, has influence over the life that we're living and the people within it. There's so much going on right now, besides what you could ever possibly think about, where your mind is going. There's so much more beyond that. And in some cases, all it takes to realize that is to simply notice the ticking of the clock, the pacing of your breath, the pulse in your arm, the way the air smells, the sound of somebody walking or coughing or a distant dog barking. There's so much going on that it's absolutely unfathomable right now, at all times. The inner workings of your circulatory system, all of the bugs moving around in the ground underneath you, the shifting of the air and the sky and all the clouds and the stars. There's so much going on right now that we lose sight of when we're on a specific thought track. But it's always there. This beautiful, emergent universe, nature, and it's flowing in perfect harmony, despite what you may think. The earth knows what it's doing, the sky knows what it's doing, the trees know what they're doing, animals know what they're doing, but it's humans that can't seem to get it figured out. And it has to do with our language, and the words, and the labels that we put on everything, and how we've organized that. And it strays from nature as we try to harness and control nature through our science and through our industry. And it causes pain for nature. It causes pollution. It causes a lack of harmony, a discohesion, because we treat it as something that doesn't have a spiritual quality, that doesn't have a consciousness, and we treat it as a resource or commodity. And when we do that, we create an imbalance in nature. And it shows across the globe, in societies, in cultures, in communities. But we can live in harmony, as we once did. Time and time again, for generations upon generations, we've lived in harmony, and then we've fallen out of it, and then we've lived in harmony again, and then we've fallen out of it. And we're on that path yet again, where we are teaching ourselves and teaching our young ones how to live in harmony in this life, with this planet that we get to have. And we can talk to it. We can communicate with it. We can ask it. We can ask our bodies. We can communicate with our bodies. What does our body need? What is our body asking for? There are experts in their field, but their fields are limited when they do not recognize the spiritual aspect of nature and our body and our soul. Limitation truly doesn't exist unless we believe it does. When we get into harmony with our heart and our mind, and they work and operate in cohesion,
life becomes more of a dance. It becomes seamless. And we suffer less. And we're more effective in what we do. And more creative in our joys and passions. When we rigidly stick ourselves into the confines of how somebody else tells us we must do it, then we create suffering for ourselves. We have more freedom over our spirituality and who we are and what we get to do than we've been led to believe by our culture and society. You can do anything. You can do everything. You have psychic abilities, all of them. And all of you in some way or another has tapped into it before. Really what it comes down to in awakening these abilities is learning to trust in your spirit, trust your intuition. Because that's the only thing that's going to keep you from engaging that any further is when you say, it's just my imagination. But your imagination is tapped to that metaphysical, infinite realm that you experience in your dreams. Your imagination is that conduit that is connected to you. That's a magical ability that we all have. And there's really no limit to what you can imagine. So this brings up the idea of law of attraction, which you may have heard of. And that the energy that you put out comes back to you. So if there is something that you wish to achieve, a goal that you wish to get to, perhaps better health, better job, better relationship, then why not right here, right now, see and imagine with your mind, with your imagination, what that would be like, how would that feel, and embody that for a while. And what this is doing is opening up possibilities for you to take steps in that direction. As it is now being attracted to you because you're putting forth that energy, the only thing that's going to keep you from that is telling yourself that you don't get to have that, or that for some reason that you can't have it, whatever reason it may be. Self-worth, timing, age, appearance, intellect, whatever reason that you could possibly give will keep that from coming, and then you will precipitate not having it. And chances are, what you're wanting and how you're imagining it is still confined and doesn't really encompass how good it could be for you once you actually get there. So, in doing so, you've got to free up your mind. You see, the mind is what really kind of pigeonholes the possibilities for you of what's achievable in your life. And it's also the very same thing that opens up those opportunities and doors to see it coming through. It's all comes back to the same point in recognizing that right now is where you make that influence, where you spark the ignition. Right at this moment, right at this moment, right at this moment, every single time. And it's always right back, dead center of everything. That's your point of power. And it feels good, doesn't it?
Yes.
When you get there. But that's where you're trying to get to. With the greener pasture, with the relationship, with the good health, is you're trying to better your now. So if you recognize that right now is already here and make that better, then your future now will be better for it. It's always the end point, the beginning and the end point. It's where it starts and where it ends. Everything else is in the mind. Everything else is in the stories that we tell each other, which is a beautiful thing, but that's not really where it's at. Where it's really at, right here. Where I'm talking, where you're listening. That's where the experience is happening. That's what's happening. And it's always been that way.
What do you think, guys? Do you like it?
Yeah. Yes.
Is it beneficial?
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you went to manifesting, because that's, you know, our mind, the world around us, so distracting.
Oh yeah, it vies for your attention. It vies for, everyone wants it. Everyone must have your attention. Because it's money. That's a real currency. But your space, your mental environment, your environment at home, your car, those things are what you have control over. And that's what's really going on. And once you realize that, you pour yourself into that, then you up-level your well-being. Your vibration, as we put it. And that spreads. People see that and they're like, I want that. Look how happy that person is. Look how comfortable they are in their own skin. How are they doing that? And it's when they're willing to ask that question and ask for help, is then when you can help them. But when they're in their dumps, in their dark times, they're not yet willing to take the accountability that they put themselves in that position, which means they're not ready for the help. And you will end up draining yourself in trying to help them out of that. You can do what you can. You can offer them food and shelter and all these things, but you can't get them out of that mental prison until they're willing to look for the door to get out of it. And that's something I had to realize in creating this, is I wanted to help the world. I wanted to go there. I could see how this person was setting traps for themselves. I really wanted to do that really badly. And I tried and I tried and I tried. And all it did was leave a hole in my heart because I couldn't do anything there. Because I was investing myself in their outcome. But that's not up to me. That's up to them. So all I could do was create a space, an environment where when they're ready, they can come to me. And that's when it's going to be most useful for them. And that's what I have discovered. That's how I can be of most value to others, is by living my truth, being who I am. And my company, my business, all this channeling stuff, it's all fancy words for just me. It's just me, it's Jeff, expressing my spiritual self.
Is it channeling over, or can we still ask questions?
You absolutely can. Technically, I'm just in the state of channeling. I'm just getting more and more comfortable with it. But yeah, please.
Okay. Katie's been struggling so much with her health for a long time, and the last month and a half she's uncovered a lot of the emotional, mental, and spiritual pains that have caused a lot of this illness, and she's wondering, is the path that she's on sufficient, or are there things that she can be doing that will help heal her faster, or is the path of healing that she's on sufficient? Are there things she's not seeing?
Part of this healing process that Katie is learning is self-love and self-trust. And when Katie can confidently, with trust, know that this path is sufficient, which it is, then you will be able to step up to the next step in the healing process, which really ultimately comes back to loving who you are, loving Katie, loving her body, loving your intuition, giving it the respect and honor that it deserves, that she deserves, that her body deserves. That's the lesson here. That you're good enough and you know better. And you are in the right place at the right time. And when you can believe that through and through, then you will be able to move past it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Can you talk about Kundalini?
Kundalini. Kundalini is a primal energy that exists in all beings, all physical beings. It's, best described as the energy of the earth, the energy of Gaia, or the creator of everything that you see on this planet. Everything that we consume comes from this earth. The soil itself, the ground, is incredibly powerful. And we all have access to it, but we won't begin to tap into it until we create an environment for it to reside in. And this means going through, as you see the chakras here, is a beautiful way to express and identify these aspects of the human life that all have to do with different levels of your reality, such as your power, your solar plexus, your stomach, and how you digest things, that inner fire. Perhaps it's just a little flickering flame right now. Well, that needs to be opened, which means being confident, being bold, and following through with your word gives greater impact and influence of your will. That's your willpower. And it also leads to better processing of the things that you can consume as in digestion. So using this as an example, if that's closed off, then the primal energy of the earth can only get so far and will be focused in that level of energy, concerned with not feeling valuable, not feeling like feeling worthless, these types of things. And the energy will hit that like a wall and then disperse into a range of thoughts that will bring you down. In another sense, the heart. The heart represents the balance and connection with your family and your life and your love, as it is indeed your heart. And when that's closed off, then as the energy arises and hits that point, you may be resentful towards others. You might look at others and wish that you had that, or think that you went on the wrong path. And because of that, you don't get the access to a greater energy. Another way that this primal energy that exists can emerge is in what is called the muse, in that creative sense. This comes through dedicated time and energy put towards a creative passion. When you dedicate yourself to doing it, you access a greater power than which you could necessarily conjure up on your own. It's as though the spirit of the planet you live on is bestowing its loving grace through you, and you become a channel for this creative work. Now, in the full Kundalini awakening aspect, that would be going through and putting everything into balance, the heart into balance, the throat, the ability to speak and listen, the ability to tell the truth, the third eye, and the ability to trust in your intuitive understanding of things, your imagination, and opening that crown chakra and recognizing that you are tapped into a higher realm, a higher dimension of energy. That when you give all of these aspects of yourself their due time and energy, which, by the way, naturally occurs in communing with this present moment, in getting into the flow, in getting into meditative states, in immersing yourself in the moment you're in, is naturally clearing up the conduit that courses through your energetic body and is stoking or yoking the energy of the Kundalini. This is the whole purpose behind yoga.
Yoga is to yoke that primal energy up and make it meet the higher energy realm of the crown chakra. And once it meets there, you see it in the symbol of the healing symbol of the caduceus on medical buildings, the serpents rising up to meet the top and the wings expanding. This symbolizes the Kundalini awakening in man. And it's experienced through many different ways, but is ultimately all the same thing. And it's tapping into your spiritual nature and integrating the body and the persona with what that means, that truth. And incredible things can happen. Healing, miraculous healing, unbelievable serendipity and joy and fortune can befall you when you access this energy that's available to you. It's often represented as a serpent for some, or a coiled ball of energy that lives in the root chakra. But it really can be anything you want it to be. And whatever way that it comes to you is best for you. And brilliant things can happen when you open up these chakras, or energy centers, if you will. And this can be understood through the Sanskrit chakras, or the Kabbalah's energy centers, or really whatever suits you. It could even be the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. It can really be whatever suits you best. But it will automatically awaken new aspects of your being, like your hand chakras. And you can recognize, if you've seen it in metaphysical stores such as the one above us, there's a common symbol of the palm with the eye right here. And that has always been the symbol for a psychic, somebody that can see beyond into the spiritual realm. Because what's actually happening there, mechanically speaking, is the hand chakras are turning on. And the hand chakras are connected to all of these chakras as well. They can feel just as the heart can, and they can see just as the third eye can. And what's happening is all these energy centers are now working cohesion, and included with grounding. As you are more connected to the earth, the energy centers in the bottom of your feet open up. You have better footing and balance, and you have a better sense of present awareness as you walk through life. So in all forms, this is good for you, incredibly beneficial. Whatever you can do to give yourself that spiritual nutrients of, again, treating yourself to this divine moment here before you, to taste the richness of the food that you eat, to listen to the music that you're listening to with full undivided attention, instead of looking at your phone at the same time while you're struggling with thoughts about what you have to do at work tomorrow. All of that is dividing the attention and dispersing all of this God-given energy that you have access to, which means that you're not facilitating a space for this more primal, powerful energy to arise within you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
We can all become the Avatar, or Super Saiyan, if you will. It's within all of us. And when we feel it just a little bit, it feels incredible. That's when we're tapping into it. When everything's lining up, when you have synchronicity, when things feel right and correct, that is confirming that you're on the right path, because you really, 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 really are. But what's different in that moment is that your mind is no longer telling you that you aren't. Your mind is no longer telling you that you're not in the right place, not in the right time, that I should have done that I should have done this, that I can't achieve that. That's actually all bullshit. That somebody else taught us. But they were wrong. You're capable and limitless. You can do anything that your heart desires. Only you control the valve, control the the doors. You're the one that turns the knob. We live in a day and age where you can make money just eating with a camera on. There really is no limit.
When you discuss energy centers on the earth, like Hawaii or Sedona or different, areas like that, and I just vaguely know a little bit, so if you could expand on that a little bit, that'd be great.
This planet that we are sitting on, that is the stage for our existence, is a being in itself. It is an energetic structure in itself. And it is conscious. Its energy centers are all over itself and within itself. It has a root, just like you do. It has a solar plexus. It has all of these things that relate to different aspects of the way that it's being. And the intelligence that goes behind that is beyond what any humans could ever understand. Any meteorologist can't really truly understand how the weather works. Any seismologist can only really truly understand how earthquakes work. But all of these things are intelligently and divinely orchestrating at all times. And what you refer to as a convergence or vortex of energy is just an energy center. We have limitless chakras, if you will. A chakra is just a wheel of energy. It is just where energy converges and disperses, like a vortex. And they are all over your body, literally in every single cell. But there are dominant vortexes that operate entire systems, such as the heart and the hypothalamus glands. And they are all referred to as glands, the third eye and the pineal you may have heard of, the pituitary and the crown. All of these corresponding glands and nerve bundles are connected to energetic wheels or chakras, and the earth has them too. And there are wonderful, wonderful places on earth where people, intuitives, can feel that energy, and some choose to live there or go there on vacation frequently because it creates an alignment of their chakras while they're there, and they can feel that and experience that. This town is one. That's why the Mormons built the temple here.
And don't you have access to that personally, wherever you want to be,
Absolutely. Again, you...
rather than a place?
yes.
The actual channel.
Exactly. At any place that you occupy is the right place to be at any given time. And you have great influence over where you're standing or sitting, even if it's just in a car sitting in traffic. There's a great world out there that we can't see as human beings typically. There are spirits going up and down the roads along with us. There are extraterrestrials, extra-dimensional beings coming in and out, and it's all happening betwixt and in between this present moment that we occupy, and some are actually being attracted to our energy. Now, on that higher level of our grand consciousness, it's all one thing, but when you come back down into the physical levels, there is a dispersion to that, and unbeknownst to many humans out there, they are attracting spirits and energies to live in the habitat that they're creating in their mental states. And so when you see, for instance, a homeless person who's addicted to methamphetamine, they, unbeknownst to them, they are actually creating an environment for Onai to live, or demons, quite literally. And those spirits are having greater influence on their choices to essentially cultivate and enhance their habitats. Now, they had to be let in the first place by that person based on their choices and what they decided to do. But when you spend time
accessing and harnessing your energy and spreading your grace and your love from this point right here, right now, then you are clarifying your energy and bringing forth the energies and spirits that would suit that energy. Angels, spirit guides, ancestors, and all those lovely things. They are very real things. But you have to give them the go-ahead to occupy that space. Remember that you are in control of your own domain. That is yours. No one else's. And it's a violation to control somebody else's domain. And that is an injustice. And we see that. And none of us are happy to see that. But it doesn't mean that we have to take it upon ourselves to do something about it unless we choose to. And then you will take that path. But everybody is in command, charge of their own domain, their own space. And if we can all recognize that, then we will live in greater harmony and peace. How does that sit with you?
It's good.
That's good.
Again, anything can exist if there's a consciousness to experience it. But you, as consciousness, gets to choose what you are going to experience. And there may be circumstances that arise that it feels like you don't have it in control over, but lest you forget that you choose how to respond to that and how you're going to take the next step in life. You really do get a choice, even if it doesn't seem that way. And you gain greater clarity of how to make that choice when you bring your heart up and recognize that this is important, that this is significant, this means something, that this is where meaning actually comes from. And we direct it with our attention, direct it with our mind. And it goes through all the corridors that we've set up through our beliefs and the way that we talk to each other. For a good time. You like it?
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Very good.
A little different.
Different is good. We're entering into the age of Aquarius and things are going to be different. They just
They
are.
are. We can
and
see it
we
happening.
embrace it.
But it happens with each one of us on our own journey. That's where it happens, and that's where it blossoms out. It's not like some, there was a time where we all believed in that Savior, that Savior was going to do it, but that Savior is us. That's what all that means. That's what he was trying to say in the first place. Love one another, love one another, love one another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it. That's how we save. That's how we save ourselves and everybody else. Love. Love every single time. It always comes back to that.
And thank you for living your truth and being true to your path and what that looks like for you. It gives everyone here strength to strike out on their paths and do what's true for them as well. I know it does for me, and so it's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's awesome to witness it.
Yeah.
And again, I used to teach at leadership classes at the sales job I used to have, and I always would stray from the books and stuff that we had, and it always came down to leading by example, to setting the example, standing up and being bold, that's how a leader should operate. That a boss sits behind a desk and tends to employees and is looking at them as numbers and commodities, but a leader stands before the people and shows them how to walk, and we're all leaders. We're all leaders, and I think accessing our spirituality is taking that step, being that leader in your life, leading yourself. And again, I'm not incredibly well versed in the Bible, but as far as I'm concerned, all the teachings of Jesus are exactly that. He's teaching you how to access your power, your rightful divine power, and live in it, to live that. And that's how you will find God in your life. To be that, and he sets the example. Be like me and you will know. That's, and I would butcher the quotes, but I had my own spiritual experience, and so I speak the way I speak. But I've met very enlightened Christians, Mormons, Jews that have that understanding, that knowing of love and what God is. And they're able to decipher and translate all of that scripture and make total sense of it. And then that's what they do. That's what they go to become. They become a preacher, or they become. I know one guy who's the most enlightened Christian I ever met, and I met him when I was in my dark punk phase, nihilist, just listening to metal, and like I was an angry person. And I met him one day. He just came to my house, and wanted to hang out with me and my buddy, and he just got to talking about his experience with Jesus, and how that changed his life, and how it opened his heart. And I had never seen that before. All the church that I had gone to, and all the Catholic school and Lutheran school that I did, nobody ever expressed it like this guy. It was truly heartfelt and beautiful, and it opened my eyes to be like, oh, that is something very real for people. And it gave me hope, it gave me faith, it planted some seeds in me. Now, it wasn't the path that I took, but I absolutely love and respect people that do. But they're the ones that are really staying true to the lessons, instead of just putting up a face for their culture, for the people in their lives. That's hollow, that's not the real thing. But there is a real thing, there, a very real thing. And the same could be said about Buddhism. I'm sure, I lost me, the ones that knock the doors all the time. Jehovah's Witness. I'm sure I haven't met one yet, but, there's got to be something real to all of it because of what I've found. And that's part of why I went to Healing Hands to do this, because I think that New Age catches a lot of flack from a lot of people, and people that I've known, people that I've even done podcasts with and stuff like that, and communicated with, that think that New Age is a big scam. And I disagree. I think there's truth to all of it. The crystals and the sage healing and the witchcraft, all that stuff has validity. But it's all has to do with the truth within, and how aligned are you with that? If you're just trying to adhere to an image of what you think that should be, then you're missing the point. You're not quite there yet, and you're gonna have to learn that eventually. And we call that karma, or what have you. But everybody is valid. Everybody has a reason to exist. And it's up to them to find that. And if they don't want to find that, that's fine. They can try it on the next go. But it's not our job to find that for somebody else. And that's where you cross the line. And I think that's what leads to a lot of corruption in religion and in cultures. Is that when you decide that your way is their way. That's not true. There's nothing in true Christianity that should have ever taught that.
Yeah.
Most people are aware of who Moses is. Raise your hand if you don't. In the Bible, there's a story where there's two men that are in the camp that Moses led out of Egypt, and they're prophesying. And there are a couple of the people that ran to Moses and said, Moses, forbid them. They're prophesying in the camp. Forbid them. And Moses says, forbid them not. Would to God that all his people were prophets. And it's like we see what we want to see in religion, because in religion usually it's an egoic and there's something set up externally for people to
Adhere
you know,
to, yeah.
adhere to, and it's exactly what we've been teaching today. It comes from within,
Yep.
and
The kingdom of heaven is within.
yeah, and Jesus taught that, and
Yeah.
and there are a lot of those teachings that escape, and it's because people have to go on their own journeys. They have to go on their own journeys into the Bible, into the Book of Mormon, Jehovah's Witnesses, whatever they believe in, Buddhism, the Quran, everywhere, right? Because there is truth everywhere.
There is.
And it's an individual journey to find that truth. And we all have our own, like, I don't know if you've read The Alchemist, but the personal legends
I love
and
it.
the things that we're put here to accomplish that are our own things to accomplish.
Yep.
And it's a lot easier said than done.
Our challenges
A lot
are our
easier said
own.
than done, yes.
And they're
Yes.
for us, and no one else is better equipped to deal with them than us.
Yeah.
It's really easy for us to believe that we can't do it, or it's impossible, or blame somebody else, and what that does is it takes away from our personal accountability for facing up to the challenge, and makes it even harder on us when we blame somebody else for the problem that we're in. What are they gonna do, fix it? Are they gonna come in and say, oh, sorry, my bad, and fix your life for you? No. You have to come to the realization that you put yourself in the position to live that experience out. And once you take that back, that's a little reclamation of power. That's taking that little bit of power back and saying, because blame is another word for credit. When you blame somebody, you're giving them credit for the position that you're in.
Yeah. Jesus didn't hang on the cross and say, make all these people burn that just crucified me. He said, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. And he also in his darkest hour said, God, why have you forsaken me? Where did you go? And all of these lessons are symbolic for our own lives.
Yeah, our personal
When we start
stories.
to realize that we are the ones in control, we're the boss. And we can take that accountability and that responsibility, and just us, that others be forgiven for their ignorance. Because we all walk in ignorance, every last one of us.
Yeah.
And we have to go on our own personal journeys to come out of that.
Yeah. And part of what you learn, part of that realization is realizing that you can't know. You just can't know everything, you really can't. But that opens you up to so much more possibility. Because it's when you've made these conclusions that this is the way it must be, that you've closed yourself off to possibilities. As a Christian, you've closed yourself off to the possibilities of Reiki and energy healing or energy perception. When you're a New Age person and all you focus on is astrology and crystals, you've closed yourself off to Jesus Christ, And it's when you make these conclusions, that's when now you set up a new challenge for yourself. You set up a new wall to get over. But you can free yourself of that wall right here, right now, by simply being, by simply existing. And that's what a meditation teacher teaches, or non-dual teacher, or what you'll find in like Buddhism or different sects of Hindu and things like that, is going within and meditating automatically frees that up. And this is something built into our bodies, built into our consciousness that we all have access to. But the reason why someone might be afraid of going down that direction is because of the belief systems that we've been indoctrinated with. You might get a fundamentalist Christian that says you don't want to meditate because you might be inviting bad spirits in or something like that. So you'll never know what that could be. But really it's just listening. It's just quieting down and listening. So you're taught to pray, but you're not taught to listen. But they go hand in hand. They really do. And we all have that access, and all have that power. It doesn't matter if we follow a religion or a strict set of rules. We get to make that up as we go along. That I think is one of the secrets that isn't widely known, is that we all get to have our personal way of doing this. And there's truth and validity to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.